Hello, everybody. Tracy, Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president of JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures podcast sponsored by the JDog Foundation. Our podcast gives the military community a voice in the veteran space to share stories of service, how they continue to make a difference in civilian life, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has shaped their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I am honored to speak with Ashton Kroner, who is a Marine Corps veteran, traumatic brain injury survivor, and national advocate for veterans' health. She served 8 years in the Marine Corps with deployments to Iraq on Team Lioness as well as Afghanistan before transitioning into a career focused on supporting veterans and first responders. Ashton serves as the Director of Veteran Affairs for Pink Concussions, the international organization dedicated to brain injury research and advocacy for women and girls. She also serves on the board of directors for the Veteran Resource Center and is the co-founder alongside her husband, Casey, of Pedal for Impact, a national initiative providing free early cancer detection screening to veterans. Their mission was born from Casey's own late-stage cancer diagnosis and their shared drive to make sure other veterans don't wait months for answers. She previously held leadership roles with the Road Home program at Rush University Medical Center and UF Health's Leon L. Haley Jr., MD, Brain Wellness Program. Ashton holds a bachelor's degree and an MBA from Purdue University. Today, she uses her lived experience with TBI, PTSD, and navigating the VA system to champion early detection, accessible care, and the importance of catching cancer before symptoms appear. Hello, Ashton, and welcome to Tactical Treasures. Thank you so much for your service to our country, ma'am.
Thank you for having me and thank you for your
Of
support.
course. I'm really excited for our discussion today, but I have a couple questions that I'd like to ask you first. What inspired you to join the Marine Corps?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. So I actually always wanted to join ever since I was like 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
I had been watching, yeah, it's 7 exactly. I'd stayed up too late watching television one night and a commercial had come on. And it was actually of an army commercial. And then right after that was the Marine Corps commercial. But I was so excited because I got to see, military adults, playing on like jungle gyms. And I was like, how cool would that be? So I go running into my parents' room and I'm like, I'm going to join the military. And of course, that's not what your mother wants to hear at like 11 o'clock at
Yeah.
night. And yeah, basically she came into my room, was like, what's going on? And Jerry Springer was on. She was not thrilled.
Oh,
Because I was not watching Jerry Springer. They're like, channel surfing, but, really it just kind of stuck with me. I knew that I wanted to, serve after seeing that. It started off with like, I like the jungle gym, but then, after doing research and looking into it, I was like, this is what I want to do.
oh, wow. I love that. That's a great story. And I'm sure
Thank
your
you.
parents were like, oh, okay, well, this is what she says now that she's 7, but wow, what a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And you stuck with it. I
Yeah.
love it. Um, is there a particular aspect or moment from your service that stood out as impactful in a positive way for you?
Oh, it's so hard to sit there and pick one, but I think the one that, I felt like I had the biggest impact was actually joining Team Lioness when I was out in Iraq. It was something that I didn't really understand what it was at the time. I was 19, turning 20. I'd never really heard of it. I just was bored of being on base and, they were looking for females to volunteer. And, I was like, I want to do this. This is going to be fun for me.
Wow, yeah. And I read about that. There's a book called Ashley's War that I read that talks about the how the female Marines were recruited for these special project of being able to talk to women and children and kind of break that barrier that men marines or soldiers were not able to break through. So that's must have been very exciting for you.
It was. I wish, kind of looking back on it, I wish that the military had offered us kind of a little bit more training. So, when I had deployed to Iraq, I deployed with AFCOM and, when they were volunteering, I wasn't volunteering with my own parent command. They drop you into an infantry unit and you do all the training, separate from your unit. You get all these other females that are put together, in this small fob. And that's where you do your training for about a week to 2 weeks. And then from there, they drop you into these different, battalions or different units. And looking back on it, there was really no camaraderie. We get dropped in, and every couple of months they sit there and rotate the lionesses out. So it was, initially it was difficult to work with them. And by the time we kind of get our groove going and, you start building that trust, not just with your, fellow Marines and corpsmen, but, also with the community. The military takes you out of that environment and sends you back to your parent command. So it was very exciting, to be in that kind of position. At the same time, looking back on it, I'm like, that's, kind of a silly way to, operate. But luckily the Team Lioness ended up going into the female engagement team and then opened up all combat arms for women. So it was kind of like, helping kind of pioneer that with a lot of lessons learned. And I'm glad that the military, basically took our advice and ran with it.
Right, right. How exciting. So after you get out of the Marine Corps, what was your transition like? And I know you're doing a lot of different things right now. I would love to hear how that journey happened with being the director of veteran affairs for Pink Concussions, which is what you're doing now. And of course, we want to go on and talk about the other initiative that you're doing. But could you talk to me a little bit about Pink Concussions and how you found them and how you got involved?
Yeah. So, I guess the first part of the question is, I actually, struggled getting out of the military. I didn't use any of the resources. They had their separations class that I did out of West Point because I was a recruiter up there. But I did not really understand kind of my plan. I didn't have a plan, actually. I just wanted to get out of the military and just go make six figures. And I found out really quickly that's not what happens. I was also, dealing with some, behavioral health, issues at the time. It was impacting the family. And so we moved back to, from New York to North Carolina, which is where, we had purchased a home, in between my deployments. And I thought that I knew everything. And I realized really quickly that that was not the case. And so I started looking for jobs nationally and ended up in Chicago, working, at a few different places. But the one that really kind of stuck with me was the Rush Road Home program. They provide PTSD services at no cost for veterans, regardless of era and discharge status. And through that, I actually realized that I myself was struggling with post-traumatic stress. And then I was also having some other issues with traumatic brain injury. And so through my community outreach, I was doing national outreach, just trying to connect veterans to, services through the Road Home program, through the VA. And I connected with Catherine Sedkar out of Pink Concussions. And what they do is they advocate for women and girls that have had brain injuries. Statistically, historically, whenever you think of a traumatic brain injury, you think of the NFL, you think of hockey, and who's playing those sports? It's males. And, Catherine, she wanted to basically change that narrative. Women and girls can have head injuries just like, our male counterparts. And so what we had realized is that there was not a lot of research being done regarding women that have sustained head traumas. Actually, it was funny. There's a study that was out there where they were, working with mice and head trauma, and they actually removed female mice from the study, and it was because they menstruate. And I'm like, well, so what? Females do that, and so it was really jarring knowing that whole population was taken out of that study, because of something, called biology. And so that's what Pink Concussions does is we sit there and we bring women and girls to the table on research. We do a lot of advocacy and education with doctors. We go to conferences. And we basically just tell our stories that, hey, we served, obviously in a capacity where it caused a head trauma. And, we need to be recognized as well. So that's how I got started.
Yeah, so I was reading on the website that the research has actually shown that women, when they sustain, brain injuries or concussions or whatever, that it's kind of different than how men sustain them. There's actually a difference of how the female brain reacts as opposed to the male brain. Is that correct, or did I read that wrong?
No, it's true. I mean, our bodies are very, very different, and if you look at just like the human physiology, I mean, you're looking at like everything from like just the neck muscles. So whenever you hit your head or you tense your shoulders or anything like that, it's causing pressure, and that's going up to like it's going up to your brain and everything. So your whole body actually is, can be impacted. But yes, it does, it does impact, quite a lot of your body, your endocrine function. There's been a ton of studies, regarding, or not a ton, but, there's been recent studies, regarding, menstruation, being able to get pregnant, all sustaining from, head trauma and how difficult that can be. So, yeah, everything pretty much is very different, compared to our male counterparts.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello,
Wow.
viewers and listeners. Are you a military veteran or a military family member and looking to own your own business? If so, go to JDog.com and check out our two veteran-focused franchises, JDog Junk Removal and Hauling and JDog Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. Our franchisees nationwide are always looking to hire fellow veterans and patriots. JDog is the world's largest military franchise system with hundreds of locations nationwide. We are nearly 90% veteran owned with the goal of reducing the veteran unemployment rate to under 1%. Check us out. Go to jdog.com to learn more. Now, back to the podcast.
That's really interesting. And this is for, women and girls from sports injuries to even domestic violence and military service, correct?
Correct. So, really any way that you can, have ever hit your head from, playing sports. Soccer is actually very, very, very common, among women, women and girls. They do a lot of headbutting with the ball. Don't recommend that for those that are listening. Obviously, military service, car accidents, you sit there and you name it. And we have, chapters on our Facebook page, so if you fall into one of those categories, we actually have a support group on Facebook that you can join, and you can find others that, you have the, shared experiences with.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's really good knowledge that you have Facebook that you can actually find a chapter near you, correct?
Correct. Everything is online. I think they do have some meetups and everything, but it's just a community where you can, find, so just pink concussions, and, you go to our site on Facebook, you'll be able to see it has a big old pink brain on there. And you can find, what is most applicable to you, and you can join multiple. You don't have to sit there and just join one. I think I'm in the military, the sports, I'm kind of all over.
Right, right. Oh, wow, that's great. You actually are involved in something else. So you and Casey co-founded I believe, a nonprofit called Pedal for Impact. And that came out of Casey's diagnosis with stage 4
Right.
cancer, right? Can you talk to me about that journey?
Absolutely. So, my husband, also a Marine Corps veteran, he served in Iraq and was exposed to burn pits. And unfortunately, through that, he had developed testicular cancer. It was stage 3A, actually, and it was considered late stage cancer. He had gone through the VA multiple times, 4 years ago, and they just kept on misdiagnosing him. They kept on saying, is anything from IBS, or, it's just, a muscle strain, just various different things. And what had happened is, and testicular cancer, any of the reproductive cancers are actually very common, among the burn pit, or those that have had toxic exposure, among various other, cancers as well. But what really struck us is that they weren't taking him serious, and it was because of his age. At the time, he was 34 years old, and he was able to lift his legs up and everything. And they kept on saying, "Well, you're fine. We're not going to do a CT scan. We're not going to do an MRI. We're not going to do any of these things. We kind of just, are going to give you some pills, or give you magnesium to, kind of, help with some of those symptoms." But what had happened is it had metastasized, to his kidney, and he was going into kidney failure.
Oh,
He
wow.
had a grapefruit-sized tumor, and it had just caused devastating, impact on him. And so he had, a lot of struggle sleeping at night because, he was laying down on this tumor.
Hmm.
And so I told him after he had, gone back to the VA and, it was late at night, and I was like, just go to a civilian hospital. So on the way home, he stopped at another hospital, and, they pretty much immediately did a CAT scan on him and had found this tumor. So
Oh,
I was late. It was
gosh.
late at night. I was at home with our son and our dogs, and I texted him like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like first thing in the morning, he was like, "Oh, I have kidney cancer," and I'm like, "Excuse me?" Like I thought he was joking.
Oh, wow.
But no, in fact, the team there had, misdiagnosed them, there as well, but they were getting closer. And so I had at the time was working at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. And I took him from that hospital to Rush, where we actually got a proper diagnosis. And through that, we were questioning, why was this not caught? This was a huge tumor, that was pressing up against them, and it was all because of his age. And so my thought process is if the VA doctors had a proper tool, to be able to help diagnose, people, like why can't we, why can't we implement that? And so we moved to Florida, where I got linked up with an organization called the Vet Resource Center. And what they're doing is they're providing early cancer detection screening. It's a simple blood test to veterans in Marion County, Florida. We've tested over 600 veterans, and through that we have found diagnosis of leukemia and I believe prostate, and other various cancers that we're identifying in just that one county alone. And so my husband and I, we decided that, Marion County, it's wonderful, but we want to go nationwide with us. And so in June of this coming year, we will actually be bicycling from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way up to Washington, D.C., on an initiative under the Vet Resource Center called Pedal for Impact, where we're going to lobby Congress to get this early detection screening test back into the VA. It is in the process of being FDA approved. It's already approved through TRICARE. So for those that are listening that have TRICARE, you can actually go to your doctor and ask for the Gallery test. But our goal is to be able to advocate for, like I said, for change. So any veteran at any age can get, this cancer screening test. And along the way, we're actually screening veterans in 6 locations so they can get that free cancer test as well.
Oh, wow. Wow. How exciting that, there's actually this test by just a simple blood test that they can actually be able to diagnose cancers that are going
Mm-hmm.
undiagnosed right now. That's amazing. That is amazing. And you are doing stops along the way as and you're offering
Yeah.
free screening. And I did look at the
Correct.
website, and people can go to the website and actually sign up to
Mm-hmm.
be able to have this free cancer screening blood test taken at one of these locations, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So if you go to our website, pedalforimpact.org, you can pick one of the 6 locations. So we're basically stopping in the military towns from Jacksonville, Florida, all the way up to DC. But, you can check out our website. We got Beaufort, South Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, and Norfolk, Virginia, and DC. So you can pick one of those locations and, sign up. We will send you an email confirmation, and, come June, or July. It's going to be a month long, bicycle ride. You'll be able to come to that location and get your blood draw. It's just a vial. That's all it is. And they, they'll sit there and screen you.
Wow. Wow. That's really awesome. I love this. I wish you the best of luck with it as you
Thank you.
pedal. And I hope that you get this through Congress, because this is important for our veterans because unfortunately, you guys were exposed to a lot of stuff over there. Whenever you're dealing with cancer, we all know that the sooner it's diagnosed, the better
Mm-hmm.
treatment options and cure rate, I guess. And I've seen pictures
Absolutely.
of Casey. He looks like he's well.
He is. He's doing
Oh,
much better. In fact, this last week, this year is always, I mean, not this year, but this time of the year is always really rough because that's also when he was diagnosed was, actually on Veterans Day.
Oh gosh.
But he did his scans. We're very excited to say that he is 4 years in remission now.
Oh
So this
wow.
last week we just got the notification from the VA. So it's just a way to be able to celebrate, knowing that he overcame something that a lot of people sit there and think of this is worst case scenario. And they immediately sit there and think of end of life planning. You don't need to do that,
Right.
especially if you're able to catch it, early enough.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, good for him. I'm glad to hear that he's in remission still. That's awesome. Okay, so this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all this great information, and I just love everything that you're doing. Really amazing causes, and we are tactical treasures. So we've come to the time in our podcast, Ashton, where I have to ask you, what is your tactical treasure that you're going to share with us today?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things that are out there, but my thing is all about health and wellness,
Hmm.
and making sure that you're advocating, for yourself and advocating for those that can't. So, my thing is, if something feels off, if the doctors are sitting there telling you no, that there is nothing wrong, and you feel in your bones, in your body, in your heart that there is something wrong, don't stop. There are so many resources out there, just like, the one that I'm doing, Pedal for Impact with the gallery, or, Pink Concussions. We are there to be able to help and give you, the advice, the validation, and the resources to overcome whatever challenges that you have.
I love that. That's a great tactical treasure, and that's true. Unfortunately, I think that in our healthcare system today, you almost have to learn to be your own advocate, right? Because you know your own body, and you know when something is not right. So I love that. You have to keep searching for answers, right? So that's
Absolutely. Never stop.
yeah, that's a great tactical treasure. Thank you for sharing. So I would ask you a couple more questions as we wrap up our time here. So is do you have any advice for your fellow veterans that are struggling navigating the VA system?
Oh my gosh. My husband would be great at this. He's actually certified to help with, helping navigate the VA claims. He went through the process. He did his own claims.
Hmm.
He's just such an aspiration. But the biggest thing is getting the documentation. We talk to a lot of people that say, I'm not feeling well, and I have these diagnoses, and they're not filling the proper paperwork out. So, gathering that information, you don't always need a doctor to sit there and write an access letter. In fact, those that are closest to you, like your spouses, friends, people that you serve with, your parents, for those that are still young, that are young, have a relationship with them, that they can sit there and talk about that change. That does a world of wonders in navigating, the VA whenever it comes to your actual claims. And a lot of people don't realize this, that the VA does not talk to one another. You have your pension, your benefit side of the house, and then you also have the medical side of the house, and those two do not talk to one another. So, and I
My
learned this the
gosh.
hard way when I went out and I got right, when I got my medical exam, my CMP exams after the military. I was complaining of, that I was having trouble hearing. And the CMP exam realized that I had, significant hearing loss, where I actually needed hearing aids, but they didn't talk to the medical side. So for years, I, was just sitting there struggling, knowing that I had hearing, just expecting, to be able to be offered a solution. And it wasn't until 3 years ago, whenever I was like, I'm really struggling, hearing, that they were like, oh, well, let's get you into a hearing exam. And next thing you know, I have hearing aids and I can hear the world again. So those little things like that, I wish that I had known years and years ago, and I wouldn't have been on the struggle bus trying to, talk to my friends and family and colleagues.
Wow. That's crazy. They're in the same system. How do they not talk to each other? But oh my gosh. Well,
Exactly.
that's great advice. Thank you for sharing that information. Um, before we wrap up our time here, can you tell us where people can find and connect with you, where they can find out more information on Pink Concussions and Pedal for Impact?
Absolutely. So, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on all the different platforms. The easiest way to get a hold of me actually is through pedalforimpact.org. You can just do like a contact us. It goes directly to either myself or my husband. If it says Ashton on there, I'll be the one responding. But
Mhm.
Facebook is the easy way to be able to get a hold of me, as well. For pink concussions, that one's easy. Just go to pink concussions, and like I said, look for the big pink brain. You'll be able to, find me, my team on there as well, and help with any type of brain trauma or questions about the brain that you have.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for that information. We'll be sure to get it out. This has been amazing, Ashton. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate all that you had to share with us today, and good luck on the pedal tour
Thank
next
you.
June. I wish you much success with that, and I hope people who feel like, they want to get this test, the veterans, I pray that they will find you at either of those locations and be able to get that test done. And can people get involved with Pedal for Impact? Like, can they donate? Can they volunteer? Or
Yes, I need all the help in the world. This test is not cheap. So for those that are looking to help sponsor a test, sponsor a ride, sponsor a mile, it does not matter. You can go to pedalforimpact.org and just go to the sponsor area or, the support area. And that will definitely help us. This test costs $949. Gallery has been fantastic. They're giving us $300 off each test in kind. So we're very supportive of that. I'm also looking for locations that we can actually come and host in those towns. Jacksonville, Florida is already covered, but for the rest of the places, we are looking for like an American Legion, a VFW, a veteran-owned business, something along those lines that we can come and host this event at. So. Yes, we're always looking for help. If you're interested, I will gladly take a call and tell you basically how we might be able to collaborate.
awesome. Yeah, I will definitely mention that in our guest spotlight and get the word out about that and see if we can get those other locations filled with American Legions or VFWs that will host the testing site. So, Ashton, thank you so much for your time today and for everything that you're doing. I think it's awesome. So happy to hear about Casey, and good luck and blessings to both of you as you
Thank you.
forge this ride in June.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on here and telling my story.
Of course. Take care. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this very insightful and informative Tactical Treasures podcast, where we've just finished up a conversation with Ashton Kroner, who is a Marine Corps veteran, and she is also the Director of Veteran Affairs for Pink Concussion, and also the co-founder of Pedal for Impact, along with her husband, Casey. I would like to talk to you about Pink Concussions, which is an international organization and the first nonprofit dedicated to brain injury research and advocacy focused solely on the unique medical needs of women and girls suffering from concussion and traumatic brain injury. Their mission is to implement sex-specific, gender-responsive strategies for the identification, management, and compassionate support of women and girls injured across all causes, from sports, domestic violence, and military service. To learn more, you can go to pinkconcussions.com, or you can find them on Facebook, Pink Concussions, and look for a chapter that you can join for further information and mentorship. Pedal for Impact is being hosted by the Veteran Resources Center in June of 2026. Ashton and her husband, Casey, will begin their advocacy bicycle ride from Florida to Washington, D.C. Along the route, they will be offering free early detection cancer screening blood tests for veterans. Their stops include Jacksonville, Florida, Savannah, Georgia, Beaufort, South Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Their mission: to make early detection a standard part of every veteran's health journey and inspiring others to ride, support, and spread the word. Through Pedal for Impact, they are sharing their story, connecting with veterans and communities, and bringing awareness to a simple blood test that can detect up to 50 types of cancer early. To follow their journey, sign up for the free early detection screening blood test at one of their stops and to partner with them. And mind you, they are looking for VFWs, American Legions, a veteran-owned business to be testing sites. Jacksonville, Florida is already covered, but they still need help in Savannah, Georgia, Beaufort, South Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. And you can also support them by donating to help this bicycle ride and to provide funds for the testing. You can go to pedalforimpact.org. Again, thank you for tuning in. And don't forget, you can find Tactical Treasures podcasts on all your streaming podcast platforms, American Grit, our website, tacticaltreasurespodcast.com, as well as our dedicated YouTube channel. We are now airing on Reese Across America Radio on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you missed that, be sure to join us for the encore on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also find Reese Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. We are also proud to share that our JDog Foundation is a Reese Across America sponsorship group. For each $17 Veterans Wreath that you sponsor, $5 goes directly back to the JDog Foundation, whose mission is to prevent veteran suicide and heal veterans' mental health and PTS. You can donate right now at reaseacrossamerica.org/JDog. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again on another podcast real soon. Bye-bye now.